One of the most celebrated football players to ever come out of the country of South Africa is Radebe. And by that, I mean he literally cannot walk the streets of Leeds out in the UK because he'll just get mobbed. And this is because Radebe plied his trade for a very long time, over a decade at Leeds United, and also captained, I think, one of the first players from Africa to captain a team in the Premier League. He played there for quite some time, and in his early days turned out in the colours of Kaizer Chiefs as well, captained Bafana also in his heyday, and he joins me in studio, and this is the legend that Ayanda Nyathi was referring to when he said he's in studio. Thank you so much, sir. I really appreciate this moment. Yeah. It's really surreal for some of us to be sitting across you, to be talking to you. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you, sir? Thank you for having me in the studio.
Thank you. We'll talk about the Ladies World Cup that's starting today in just a moment. But the reason you're here is because the Premier League is celebrating 30 years.
Yep. And
as part of that, fans have been asked to vote for their 11 best players who ever took part in the Premier League. I think, how long was the list? Could you pick from just anyone?
No, I mean, first of all, for me it was a great honor and it was exciting, to be part of this campaign. I mean, we had 30 players. I mean, it could have been more, but I think to keep things exciting, we just had 30 of those players, and out of
for
that,
the 30 years,
for 30 years, and out of that 30, we needed the 11 best players to.
You know what worries me?
Yeah, go on.
There's no South African on this list. I'm looking. Oh yes, my executive producer is saying, well, he's there.
Yeah,
but there's the list there. There's the list there, Lucas. Can we go back to that list there? It has DJ Drogba. It's got Yaya Toure, Mohamed Salah, Sadio Mane, JJ Okocha. What a player! Makelesi and Riyad Mahrez, Edouard Mendy, the Senegalese goalkeeper, and Mikel Obi, the great Nigerian midfielder, Nwankwo Kanu as well, a former, what a lethal striker he was, and Kolo Toure, Yaya's brother. So the Toures made it twice on the list.
Yeah, I think for me it's the impact, that those players have made in the UK, in the Premier League. I mean, different generations of players, and I mean, from Bruce Grobler, I mean, you can imagine, that's a long time ago. But again, this is shows that, as Africans, there is talent.
Yeah.
And obviously we've changed the Premier League, in terms of what we brought in the game, and to the fans as well. And it was absolutely amazing. It was very difficult, to be honest, because for me, I would have loved to see not South Africans there, but more defenders, because I think if you look at the list, this is my team.
It's an attacking team.
It's an attacking team, and this is a good team. But we need to acknowledge as well the importance of defending.
Great coaches will tell you strikers will win you games, but defenders will win you titles.
Absolutely. And that's what we need to celebrate. And not only that, but, you celebrate those who paved the way, for the aspiring footballers, current players, and it's great that we can always come back and bring that experience, to our national teams. And that's how football has evolved now, that, the standard of the Africa Cup of Nations now, you look at the names, of the players across Africa, it's absolutely amazing and it's very competitive.
Yeah, and of course, this is limited to the 30 years that of the Premier League era. If you had to go back, you would even find the likes of Gary Bailey, who plied their trade out in Manchester for Man United and also played for Kaizer Chiefs. But am I right, were you the first African player to captain a team in the Premier League?
Yeah, I was actually. I mean, a predominantly white team as well, which is Leeds United. And for me, it wasn't about the position, to be honest, but it was about what I brought to the Premier League and what I've learned, what I took out of the game as well, you know, which was more important. Because yes, on the field of play, you know, we know what we can do.
Yeah.
But off the field of play is the challenges that we have in terms of the environment, in terms of how you adapt, you know, to the tradition and the culture of the team. Because, you know, in order to settle and make that kind of impact, you need to settle and be not just a football player, but be the best player, you know, and bring something different that will make the team look different as well. Which
your overall contribution.
Yeah, I would have loved, you know, I would have loved, you know, to have hoisted the silverware with the club. But even if I had the opportunity to go to bigger clubs where I would have, you know, hung medals and that, but it wasn't about all those accolades. For me, it was about being part of a team that improves, and I can improve as well as a player and as a person.
Yeah. And what an impact you had at Leeds United, Lucas. They call you the chief there. And you are literally the only player I know who had a testimonial game played for them from South Africa in the Premier League. You had a whole testimonial game, 22 players coming to play a game in your honor, and that took place at Elland Road. You are the only South African player who's got a lounge at Elland Road, at a stadium that is out in the UK. You have the Radebe suite at the stadium at Elland Road. That must be huge. I was not exaggerating when I said you cannot walk the streets of Leeds. But what do you think of players who made that impact that you talk about? We know Benny McCarthy played in the UK. You could say he had his best career there at Blackburn.
Yeah.
You had Steven Pienaar. He had his best days at Everton. He went to Tottenham, but he came back to Everton. You've had other players coming through the generations playing there, like your Kagiso Dikgat. You played for a couple of teams in the Premier League. Do you think that there is something that the current generation can learn from those players that made them stay? Because there's this thing of going out for a year or two and coming back home, and we're wondering what happened.
Yeah, I think it's a different breed of players, first of all. They're not breed the same anymore. And again, I think football has evolved. You know, it has become young. There's a lot of money now involved in the game.
And sorry, Lucas, the visuals there on screen are that testimonial game. You remember that?
Clearly, I mean, Vinnie Jones. Actually, in that game, we picked one lady that played in that game, Lucy Ward, who was a Leeds United ladies. And I don't know if they show it where Vinnie Jones tackled her.
Yeah. He tackled her.
He tackled her. And she even scored a goal. But it was this is the moment that we cherish, you know, forever. Because this is made me realize, you know, of my contribution towards the club, just to play football and be part of the squad, you know, to be appreciated and acknowledged, and you know, to a city where it was known of its racism, but having legends like Gordon Strachan, you know, who was a Leeds legend there, it meant a lot. I mean, Tony Eboa, you know, some of, I mean, the late Phil Masinga. I brought even Doctor.
Phil Masinga, yes.
I even brought Doctor Kumalo, you know, to play in the game, just to have a taste of what it's all about. It's not about the money, you know. It's about you as an individual, where you want your talent to be in terms of your level, you know, because you play against the best players in the world. It makes you even better, but not just as a player, but as a person as well, which is, for me, that was absolutely amazing.
Yeah. I cannot get over just how you are celebrated there as an individual, Lucas. Just to give you context, further context, there's a street named after Lucas Radebe in Leeds. There's a beer that's called the Radebe beer. It's called the Radebe beer. There is a rock band that's called Kaizer Chiefs, and this is because you were signed from Kaizer Chiefs.
Aye.
And that band called themselves Kaizer Chiefs. And there are children whose names are Lucas today, and they are grown adults, but they were named after you when you were playing for Leeds United. An absolute legend. I don't think South Africans really appreciate all of that.
Yeah. It's brilliant that you can be honored in that way and be valued. But I'm glad that they're not they were called Lucas, so they're going to live with me forever.
Yeah.
But the most important thing is that I'm glad that they're not mine.
Rhoo, let's quickly shift gears. The Women's World Cup is starting. We don't have a lot of time. It's starting today. And it's expected to be a spectacle, despite what took place in the early hours today. We were speaking about it earlier of the shooting there. But our ladies are also there. What do you think of the chances? Firstly, we're playing Sweden and we've got Italy and Argentina in our group. What are our chances there?
It's a tough group. Because I think if you look at the teams that we're up against, especially in the group stages, those are the teams that have been there before. Very experienced teams, very strong as well. But great for Banyana, to have made it that far. That shows something, on our team. We've got good players, that are representing us, not just in South Africa, but the African continent. I think there's good representation there. But I think the challenge is to get out of those stages. And I think what I've seen so far of Banyana, I mean, we've done well coming in there as the African champions. And I think we've got that quality.
So we're not really underdogs. We're underdogs, but we're champions. Why are we...
That's a huge price tag. That's a huge price tag. And it's a big stage. And those players, they know their responsibility. They've had that experience before. And I think they... with Desiree, I was at the farewell party. I think they are really motivated, knowing that the crowd, the South Africa is behind, and the team. And surely, what they're looking forward to do when they go there, they just want to go there and do the best that they can, to make sure that they compete in that level. Never mind winning and that, but I think for me, the quality in terms of competing with those great players, the likes of Sweden, Italy, that makes them stars already. And I think it will attract a lot of talent scouts,
yes, that's
have a look at them. That's very, very crucial.
Yeah. I happen to know that back in 2002, at the World Cup in South Korea and Japan, you were there, and you captained that Bafana Bafana team. But there was an incident ahead of one of the games where you, as the playing personnel, were at loggerheads with the association. And you had a meeting, I understand, that went deep into the night, in the early hours of the morning, because of the bonus structure or something that you were not happy about. And that game, I can't remember what it was against.
Spain. It was Spain.
It was Spain. You lost that game.
We lost that
and
game.
It's believed that that incident that happened with SAFA, the discord with the association ahead of such an important game, played a big role in you guys not making it to the groups, out of the group stages and into the knockouts of that World Cup. Are we likely to see the same fate for Banyana Banyana with what happened prior to them leaving and is still unfortunately continuing?
It's sad to see that we still have problems that hampers our participations or, in these stages where I think football now has become professional, especially women's football. Women's football now is rising. Women's football now is attracting, top sponsors, and to see, what's happening in terms of, and it's not just South Africa, but it's in Africa, because all these problems, of negotiations, especially at the crucial time where we should be focused, when preparing, for such a big stage. It's been going on for that long.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right when you're saying during our World Cup 2002, we had a similar problem that hampered our performance. Because you don't need things like that happening, prior to such big games. We should be professional enough and have a proper structure in place to resolve such issues when we can give the coaches and the players time to prepare and for big games, because mentally it takes a lot of time and strength as well, to make sure that you're going out there and fight for your country.
All right. Unfortunately, it is still continuing. We're hoping that it ends and we can all focus on the World Cup and Banyana can have a clear mindset and get the best results. Lucas Radebe, it is an absolute pleasure to host you this morning and an honor for me personally. Thank you so much for making time this morning.